Hey everybody, how you doing on this Wednesday, September the 9th? If you're in the Phoenix area, Maricopa area, we are having beautiful weather for the first time in a long time. I was out early this morning. I think it was in the 60s. I was actually just a bit cool. I wanted to bring you just a little bit of encouragement for your Wednesday from the book of Philippians. We've made it all the way to chapter 3, so we're halfway through Philippians. It's amazing, isn't it? We'll probably be done by Christmas. I think that's my goal. I don't know how many weeks into this we are, but we're in a little ways. Chapter 3, Paul is writing from Rome. If you remember, he's in prison in Rome. He's writing to some of his best friends, I think, in all of Asia Minor, these Philippians who are in Greece. And he's been traveling around, and he ends up in Rome in prison. He doesn't know if he's going to get out of there. If you remember last week, he sent a couple of his buddies, or one of his buddies, back to Philippi with some of this letter, and they were very encouraged by that. So he continues on in chapter 3, beginning in verse 1. He says this: "Further, my brothers and sisters, rejoice in the Lord. It's no trouble for me to write these same things to you again, as it is a safeguard for you." So he's giving them a little bit of a warning in this piece of the letter, and it's a good warning. So Paul's been traveling all over the place. If you know, he planted churches all over Asia Minor, Turkey, Greece, Rome. And so when he would travel around, people would follow him as well, and they would try to get in his business. If you remember early on, I think it was in chapter 2, where he says, "It doesn't even bother me when people throw me into the bus as long as the gospel's being preached," if you remember that piece. But now he's saying, be careful, be careful. Watch out for those dogs. Those dogs, this is the word from the original Greek, those dogs, those evildoers, those mutilators of the flesh. Mutilators of the flesh. So who he's talking about are the Judaizers, the Jews who became Christians, but, and this was a big deal in the early church, a lot of these Jews believed that they had to continue to follow the Jewish law to be a Christian. So there were things they had to do, specifically mutilate the flesh. They had to practice circumcision, which was the covenant that God made with them. But Paul's saying, watch out for those people, because although they have some good intentions, they're still stuck in that tribalism of being a Jew. And he calls them dogs. Watch out for those dogs, those evildoers, those mutilators of the flesh. For it is we who are the circumcision. Now, these two words are interesting because the mutilators of the flesh is keratome in the Greek. Circumcision is peritome. Peritome, the original language, means to cut around, hence circumcision. Keratome, which is the mutilator, means to cut to pieces. So he says, watch out for these guys who are coming in and telling you that, you know what, you can be a follower of Jesus, but you have to add all of these Jewish laws and these Jewish tribalism and these Jewish regulations. And Paul's saying, watch out for those guys, because this is not the gospel. The gospel is grace. When you can't add anything to grace, it doesn't just dilute it, it wipes it out. So watch out for them, these mutilators of the flesh. He says, for it is we who are the circumcision. We who are the covenant with Christ. We who serve God by his Spirit. So we serve God by his Spirit. We who boast in Christ Jesus, who put no confidence in the flesh. He says we got to where we're at by putting our 100% of our faith in the living Christ, not by what we do or what we did. It's all through faith. It's all through grace, 100%. Now, remember, we talked about working out our faith with fear and trembling, and like, well, what's my part in this? Is there God's part and my part? The answer is yes. Faith, you cannot work for. It's unachievable. That's what grace is. It's the gift you don't deserve. We enter into faith by belief alone, not by works. But Paul says, but you need to work out your faith, because there's this redemptive piece that carries on. So Paul goes on to say, these guys think they know it all. They think they're perfect in their faith. But this is what he says: if someone else thinks they have reason to put confidence in the flesh, in what they know, what they do, I have more. This is Paul. I was circumcised on the 8th day. Perfect, right? of the people of Israel. I'm from the tribe of Benjamin. I'm a Benjamite. So this is like a high tribe of the people of Israel. Hebrew of Hebrew. In regards to the law, a Pharisee. As for zeal, persecuting the church. As for righteousness based on the law, I'm faultless. Paul says, these guys think they know it all. I'm better. I've done it all. I persecuted. I watched as they stoned Stephen. I threw women and children in jail for being followers of Jesus. I thought I knew it all. It got me nowhere. Nowhere. These guys don't know what they're talking about. Watch out for those dogs. So what does that mean for us today? Because we don't deal in this tribalism anymore, do we? Does this still exist in Christianity? Tribalism? Sure it does, right? I mean, how many of us who grew up in a church believed that only our church and only the people in our church are going to get to go to heaven? Because everybody else, they were wrong. There's tribalism. There's tribalism in Christianity. There's tribalism in faith, in beliefs. And Paul says, watch out for those dogs, because the only way we get to Christ, we get to God, is through Jesus. He's the way, the truth, and the life. And we have to be very careful as followers of Jesus that we don't politicize and weaponize our faith, especially in the world we live in today, right? I mean, we do it, we see it, we read it, it's rampant. I love the weaponize our faith, because we use it for our own agenda. And Paul says, you can't do that. You can't do that. I love the illustration. I should have brought a glass of water, because if you have a glass of water, that represents grace, pure water. If you just put a little bit of dirt in a glass of water, now you have mud, right? You can't put a little bit of this religion, this tribalism, my agenda into pure grace. It doesn't dilute it, it destroys it. We can't do that. I want to leave you with a quote. And I cannot remember where I got this quote. I pulled it from my notes, but it's really good. And I think it fits perfectly for the environment we're in today, and this election cycle that's going to come to fruition in 60 days, where we're becoming very tribal. We're kind of moving to one side or the other. We're taking up our agendas. I think we should listen to Paul, right? Watch out for those dogs, those mutilators of the faith. They want to cut you to pieces. So I'll leave you with this. Each one of us has to walk the same journey of death and doubt for ourselves and come out the other side enlarged by love. Each one of us has to walk this brutal journey of life and come out the other side enlarged by love. No one can do this homework for you. No one can tell you really how it's done. It's kind of a journey that we're on. Every generation has to be converted anew. The gospel has to be ever preached in new contexts and cultures in ways that are good news to that time and that people. This culture evolves and people evolve. This good news never changes, but the way it's produced or the way it's presented changes, right? And institutions and denominations are necessary and somehow inevitable. But when they imagine that they can prepackage the message in eternal formulas and half believe, half experience doctrines and scriptures, they often become their own worst enemy. Too many people join a club instead of going on a journey towards God, towards love, and towards truth. I'm a pastor of a church, and I love our church. And our church is a part of a movement, and I love our movement. But if we think we have all the answers, and we think that we've got it all nailed, we are sorely wrong. We're going to be those dogs. Our faith and our hope lie only in one place, and that is in a resurrected Jesus. Hope you are doing okay on this Wednesday, September 9th. I hope that you are staying cool here in Arizona. It's beautiful. It's snowing in Colorado. What in the wide world of sports is going on? I have friends in California and Oregon that forest fires, and oh my goodness. 2020 has been a year. A year. Put your confidence in Christ. He alone is our rock and our salvation. Hope to see you all again really soon. Love you all. Miss some of you. Haven't seen you in a long time. Hope you're doing okay. Talk to you real soon.